Hey, what's up guys, it's Bao here, and today I'm going to be doing a gear recommendation guide for Honkai Impact 3rd. This is for version 7.0, so just keep that in mind that this video could be outdated in a year or so. Here's some terminology to know really fast. When I say TMB, I just mean top, middle, bottom, respectively, for Stigmata. And then when I say DPS, I just mean your damage dealer. Okay, so here are some early game forgeable Stigmatas. First, we have Teresa Gluttony T. This is a great Stigmata that's used on supports, and it's still used in the late game Memorial Arena teams, especially for once it can kill bosses. How this works is it drops a piece of candy that you can pick up, and if you pick it up, you get a huge total damage boost. This is also a great transitional Stigmata, and what I mean by that is that this is a great placeholder Stigmata to use until you get better options. Next is Jingwei T. This is only used for bosses because it does more damage if the enemy is alone. And then any of the free ones like Wang Zhaojun, Edison, and Marco Polo are fine if you don't have any better replacements. Marco Polo M is actually great for physical DPSs, even mid-game, but otherwise do replace those if you can once you get the option to. So here we have a good support Stigmata set that you can forge. It's Teresa Gluttony T in the Fu Hua Musician M and B set. This is a good F2P set overall because it gives a great amount of total damage in the early game, and this is also especially good for the fire teams. But if you don't have any other Stigmata for now, then you just use these. Okay, so now we're on Universal Mirage. First is G1 Lear B. This is a pretty strong physical support Stigmata, especially for a G1 Stigmata. It is conditional on being really high HP though. Next is Beethoven M and B. This gives a lot of SP on entry, which is very important for a lot of speedruns in Memorial Arena. So you'll see some use from this in late game Memorial Arena, but otherwise you won't actually really use it in mid and early game. And then finally we have G2 Thalys M. Thalys M is just a really good universal DPS piece because it has total damage in it, so it's a great placeholder set as well. Okay, so now we have Jin Sheng Tan. I'm not sure how to actually pronounce it, but this is a great Stigmata set for late game Memorial Arena for 1 second kill bosses. It doesn't really see much use elsewhere though, and how it works is it creates a zone around the Valkyrie after they do an attack, and it's very good for SS bosses, but otherwise I wouldn't really use it. And in the Tesla set, specifically M and T, these two pieces are just great placeholder Stigmata for lightning supports or physical supports respectively, T for physical, M for lightning. This is usually an alternate piece in unfinished sets. I recommend getting these though if you don't have like support Stigmatas yet for elemental teams. Okay, and now we're getting to late game Universal Mirage. So first we have the G3 DPS sets, such as Anna Sheriak, Leeuwenhoek, Durak, and Ishikawa. These are basically just sets for ice, fire, physical, and lightning. They're really just used to upgrade to their G4 counterparts now, because the G4 Stigmatas are actually pretty good alternate DPS Stigs. But you do need to make these to get the G4 in the first place. So obviously, you should probably use these if you don't have any better sets yet for DPSs. Especially Leeuwenhoek T plus B plus Alsem. These are actually pretty good for fire DPSs, but otherwise, you only build these to get to a higher Stigmata set. Here are some other notable G3 Stigmata sets. There's Fu Hua Margrave. This is supposed to be used on Azure Imperia, but she's kind of fallen out of the meta now. But this is actually pretty good for any supports who use a lot of SP, for example, Eden. If for some reason your lightning DPS is using the Handel set and you don't have Turgenev for Eden, then Fu Hua Margrave is actually a pretty good replacement. Next is Avogadro. TNM is only really used for the 1 second kills on SS bosses in Memorial Arena because it gives starting SP. Otherwise, I wouldn't really recommend it or use it. Finally, there's Shujing. This is a good alt set for Susanna if you don't have Aladdin. It's a pretty decent physical support set, but I wouldn't really recommend building it unless you don't have any other options. Okay, so this is where I actually start getting pretty good sets. First, there's Alicia TB plus Dante M. These are all forgeable, by the way. This is actually a pretty good F2P alternate Stigmata for a lot of physical DPSs, such as Linus Equinox, as well as Dreamweaver. And then all the G4 Stigmatas are actually pretty good alternatives for DPSs, especially Teddy, which is good for a lot of fire DPSs now, and of course, especially Seeding, as well as Hando, which is used as Eden's main Stigmata set, and a pretty good alternative for Lunar Vow. Okay, now onto the Exchange Shop Stigmatas. First, we have the Isaac Newton B. Isaac Newton B is actually a very strong Stigmata, and it has a very unique buff that is great for support Valkyries. This is usually used in combination with Jin Sheng Tan, and is actually a pretty good transitional Stigmata for the B part of all supports. Next is May Beach Party M. This is probably the most used Exchange Shop Stigmata. It's a very strong Stigmata, a very good placeholder. I use it in a lot of my teams still to this day from Memorial Arena, especially Eden. This is great for killing bosses, great M piece in general, very strongly recommended. And then we have Seeding Ascendant T. This is just a good alternative T piece for DPS Hersher Sentience or DPS Hersher Rebirth. Okay, and now we're on to Gacha support Stigmatas. So first we have Turgenev. Now Turgenev is the most versatile support Stigmata in the game, especially for elemental teams. Don't pull it with crystals, but if there's any chance to get it for free, like the Battle Pass, then definitely get it. This is basically the Jack of all trades set. You really only use it as an alternative to other sets.
However, it actually is Eden's main set and Fallen Rosemary's main set, but otherwise, you only use this as a replacement if you don't have other support Valkyries main sets. But even then, it's still very strong. Also, due to how fast the buffs are, this is actually used a lot in Memorial Arena, even on characters like Hersher of Origin. Okay, next is the Aladdin set. This is a set that's meant for bleed only, but it's still super strong. It's super strong for bleed, but you really need the full set for Susanna, and you also need an extra 2 pieces for supports. So it can be very expensive, but if you do get it, then you're really set for Nirvana and all bleed teams. Next is Idol Transformation. Only pull this if you want to build a stacked fire team, otherwise you can just use Turgenev as an alternative. It is really strong though, but you need the whole 3 sets. You can't get away with anything missing. Next is Suzanne B. It's a very strong B for elemental supports, but don't pull specifically for it. And don't pull for the Suzanne set either, because Grisea will be getting power crept next update. Next is the Mei set. This is just Prometheus' main set. Basically, only pull for it if you want to build a stacked physical team. Okay, and then next with the Cecilia set, basically only build this if you want to get a stacked ice team. It's actually very strong, but you need to have all 3 Stigmatas once again. Next we have Zhenzhou's Reminiscence. This is Jade Knight's main set, and it gives shield breaking and ice breach. Very strong for ice teams. Once again, build it if you want to have a stacked ice team. Next is the Brynja set for the Hersher of Truth. This is both her main set for DPS and support. It's about 10% stronger than her best alternative, which doesn't sound that much, but it's actually a lot. This is strongly recommended if you don't have Turgenev. Next is the Hersher of Rebirth set. You really want the full set because it's actually a lot weaker if you don't have like 2 pieces. This is really strong, but you don't need the entire set if you just want to obtain Red Lotus. Next is the Sweet Dream set for Lunar Vow. This is both her main set for DPS and support. Now you really want the whole set though, because the 3-piece has SP locks behind it, which means that if you don't want the whole set, then you can't ult every rotation comfortably. Finally is Wang Zhenyi. Basically don't pull for this, but if you do get it, then you can use it for 0-second kills in Memorial Arena. So you might have noticed that I didn't really talk about DPS Stigmatas, and the reason why is because supports are actually a lot more important. You should only pull for DPS Stigmatas after finishing your support Stigmatas first. Or at the very least, have alternate gears in your supports before pulling for DPS Stigmatas. Now of course there will always be exceptions, so I recommend watching Wyvern or Marisa Honkai for gear recommendations. But usually you only need DPS Stigmatas to retain Nirvana or hit leaderboard levels of scores. And for weapons, basically just pull them. There's a few Valkyries that don't need their weapon, but in general, DPSs will always need them, and supports will basically always want them. If you're not sure when to pull for a weapon, then once again just watch Marisa Honkai or Wyvern. Okay, and then we have some exchange shop weapons. So first there's Blood Dance. This is really only used for 1-second kills in Memorial Arena, but otherwise not used anywhere else. Same with Sleeping Beauty / Swan Lake. These are really only used for 1-second kills. Basically, don't worry about them until you're finally late game with maxed out teams. Next is Nabi's Duality. This is actually a great weapon for the Hersher as sentient support. It gives a lot of SP to her and lets her ult a lot easier. And I actually use this a lot more than her normal weapon these days. And finally we have Path to Acheron and Magstorm. These are not really recommended, but if you don't have Hersher of Rebirth's main weapon, then Acheron's actually pretty good. And for Magstorm, you really only want to use that for, once again, 1-second kills in Memorial Arena. And for Divine Keys, basically you only want to upgrade them to get the buffs, like the 6% fire damage buff or the lightning damage buff, but don't use them, they're actually pretty bad. And yeah, that's about it.